So hey guys, PJ back with Watch Trading Academy, and today joining me is Todd. I appreciate you being on, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
I wanted to quickly, because people have just joined Watch Trading Academy or have been members for a while, and they're now wondering, why should they spend literally 10 times more than their entry fee to get into part two, right? It's a pretty different mindset, right? Because someone has to go from, okay, I'm testing this, the waters out, right? Like I'm paying $200, $500 to join. And now you're asking me to spend, $1,500, $1,600 right away on this advanced course. And I know I wanted to bring you here because you waited to make that leap. And I'm just curious as to how do you feel now that you have all the programs, you have part two and part three. So tell me a little bit about kind of like, would you still have waited today if you had to do it all over?
No, I mean, how do I feel? I kind of feel like an asshole, to be honest. It's me dipping toes in the water, being afraid to jump all in, and I think the time decay that happened from part one, and I think I bought part one, and I'm going off memory, I think for like $497, and then almost 7 months later, after multiple emails back and forth with Alyssa, Cal, just, oh, well, what if I buy a fake, this, that, and the other. Finally got it for, I think, $19.97. So this is almost, not quite a year, maybe a year ago. And part one's amazing, right? It gives you kind of that overview. And if I could use almost a baseball analogy, it's like single A, you're getting around, learning the game, things like that. And then part two throws you right into the majors, right? It gives you the charts, it tells you what to buy, scarcity plays, talks about mindset, talks about what watches to hunt, margins, how to sell, how to negotiate. So, kind of a long-winded answer, but that 7 months that I waited and was feeling like, oh, am I gonna really invest another $2K? I made it back within my first sale.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's usually how we price things out, right? So it's like the margin in part one is like $300 to $500 a watch. The margin in part two is basically $1,500 to like $3,000 a watch. So there's each and every single transaction basically pays for each course, right? One transaction part one pays for part one transaction part two pays for part two, and then part three is like the $5,000 margin where that pays for the course itself again. So one quick question is, you've been upping your watch game a lot lately. And you're not in the 100K club yet.
No.
And I thought this was why I wanted to bring you here, because it's sometimes hard for people to go from where they are to, okay, I've seen this other guy kill it, but what about the guy in between? That's the wonder story. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to talk to you very briefly here. So tell me about, lately you've been doing a lot of watch trades. Before you were kind of not taking it so seriously or doing it part-time. If you don't mind sharing, like, tell me how much money have you started making versus before a month? Based on how many trades you're doing.
Well, and on my timeline, I started November 2020. That's kind of when I said, I'm going to take this serious. And even for those first 4 months, it was, oh, I'm scared to commit, I'm scared to commit, I'm scared to commit. And I kind of, again, I hate to do this, but your secret academy, the boot camp, man, it's a lot of mindset stuff. And I hit the switch probably about 45 days ago, and like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to see how well I can do it. So kind of went all in on. I think I've done an amazing job of buying, selling, not so great yet. So I'm still learning that. But even from November to what are we in June? We're 7-8 months. I'm sitting right about 30K in profit, which isn't amazing, but I'll take an extra 2 or 3K a month.
Well, I think it's amazing. I mean, 30K in half a year. Is basically 60K. It's
not 100K.
Right, but it's 60K a year.
Yeah.
Which means that, and if it's a progressive game, that could be like 70, let's say 75K for the year. But that to me is unbelievable, because if I think about a normal human being that works a good job, not a crappy job like entry job, but a good job, like has a decent office, or even an entrepreneur, you're not making 75K on your first year. That's like what people back in the day when I never had a degree, and it was like, well, the only way to make that is if you have a master's, And today, fine, people are making 150, 200K at work, but still, 75K is a great salary for a full-time job.
Well, that's I was going to say that you kind of just touched, and you're talking those first 4 or 5 months. 10 hours a week, maybe.
Right, yeah, exactly. You're not working full time from 8 a.m.
no.
to like 4 p.m. every day back and forth, having a commute back, having expenses of that. You know, you're
Computer in
and
the
you're
house.
still doing your whatever else you're doing, and
Correct.
you're adding supplemental income.
Exactly.
So to have that much supplemental income on a first 6 months basis, to me is unbelievable. And I think people have to realize that you had the tools I didn't have, right? So for me, growing up, it took me 6-7 years to make 30K. You know, like doing this as I wasn't taking this seriously at the beginning because I was also like, yeah, I'm learning this, I'm trading a watch, I like watches. But you're in a place where you're doing what I did after 7 years, you know, in 6 months, which is unbelievable. I mean, we have students now, I'm sure you've seen like Camden, Parker, and Carlos, and some of the students in there that are doing like 250, 300, 400K a year.
Yeah.
Cal's doing almost 500K. I mean, it's like mind-boggling.
No, I stalk all those guys. I stay
but-
quiet and try to learn, but yeah, no, it's some of the people you've taught this game to so quickly is, because I always think back to your story of your $4,000 Panerai. Would you have been happy in 6-7 months going, hey, I just made 30?
I wouldn't have believed that.
Right.
That wasn't even in my mind as something that was possible, and that is made possible for you guys, which is unbelievable to me. So, you know, right now, part 2 is at $16.97, and we're running incredible promotions on part 3 because of Black Friday in July. What would you say to someone who either just joined and is saying, well, I don't know if I should spend more money, this doesn't make sense to me, right? Or someone who's saying, well, I've been sitting on the sidelines like you were before, you know, and I'm afraid to play. You know, I'm afraid to get in, or I don't know if I'll make it.
Yeah, I mean, stop. I would say be scared of missing out, because the sooner you get in, the sooner you get to play, the sooner you make money, the sooner you make your mistakes, the sooner you grow your network, and the sooner you learn the game, right? It's the more you wait. I mean, look at the housing market, car market, watch market. I also think to myself, what if I'd have taken this more seriously in November when I saw you posting the gold Daytona green face for 50, 60K, right? There's a lot of opportunity I missed on. And I would just say, if you can do it, get in quickly, because there is opportunity literally today that might pass you by in the next 6 months or year. Don't be scared like I was, you know, jump on in, especially for these prices. I'm gonna have to ask you about a partial refund.
But in November, do you think you'd be wearing a $50,000 watch?
Absolutely not, you know. And the other weird thing that for me is something that I think some new people get over between the initial investment, it's learning not to care what other people, like I was always worried whether it's employees, coworkers, family, friends, oh my God, you're wearing this watch. That was also a small barrier. And now after kind of watching yourself, Cal, the Camdens, Parkers, Carlos's, things like that, it's so what? And it becomes a different kind of conversation. So I think, you know, honestly, that was another barrier for me was, oh, what do people think if I'm wearing a car on my wrist? You know, I can't wear a stock on my wrist and things like that. So anyway.
Well, thank you very much for coming. And guys, don't forget, Black Friday in July is happening. So contact Elisa, contact myself, Cal. Don't wait. Every moment you wait is not really about not spending the money, because investing $1,600 in yourself is making sure you don't miss out on 30K in profits in 6 months. You have to start looking at money differently. That's what we teach you at Watch Trading Academy. And you need to stop thinking, oh, this is expensive. Instead, start thinking, how do I use this to leverage myself to make 10 times what I'm spending? And this is the power of what we do here at Watch Trading Academy. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
And for those of you that are waiting to hear from someone who's made millions or can't relate to that person, or you don't know, you're somewhere in between, remember that 6 months ago, he didn't think wearing a $50,000 watch made any sense. And he also never expected to make that in just 1 year of trading, right? Like, think about how far that seems from your goal, and then think about how fast part 2, part 3 in these courses are going to help you bridge that gap from years to months to weeks to eventually days. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you guys in some of our advanced courses.